now beaming into NerdFT Radio.
This is NerdFT Radio, where nerds full-time, explorers of the metaverse, surfers of the blockchain, and not in our mom's basement. I'm your host, RSG, a.k.a. The Handyman, and I'm here with Crypto Crier, a.k.a. Checks Over Stripes. Crier. That's what I like. Crier, how are you?
Doing great. Handyman, what are you doing, Handyman?
Listen, if you had a tour of the house right now, we just set up everything. As you can tell, behind me, we got some gauntlets on the wall, number one. But the more interesting stuff, brand new shelves in the garage, brand new lights in the guest room, the chandelier that fell that I told you out of nowhere, it's back up now. So it didn't shatter, but it went down. A big shout out to the girlfriend Carolina's stepdad, Orlando, for sliding by. I was with him the whole time, just setting things up. So we're back. Handyman RSG's here. Crier, you're here. Let's get going. And we're bringing back a segment that we always have in the show. What do you think this segment is?
Maybe a new Web2 company is coming into this.
No way. It's that. Yes, you're right, Crier. It is. And not only is it a big company, it's pretty big. But yes, very small. Never mind. All right. Amazon is coming into the space. We've had Amazon tip their toes into the Web3, the whole nine, but now we officially have a confirmation that they're going ham. And from reports, it's saying they're not only just, we're going to figure it out. No, they're going to come out and say, we are heavy into crypto. We're heavy into NFTs, and this should be by April. But I would like to say this before we jump into it. Usually these announcements, they don't live up to the hype. Yeah. It's, they're coming, this, and then they come out, it's, we're going to be on Doge. We're going to be on something stupid. We're going to do like this one little thing here. But Crier, what do you think about this? What do you think about this approach from Amazon?
I think it's huge. Anytime that you're getting a large person, Amazon is probably the largest marketplace in the world. They already have been a lot of stuff with AWS, which is like their web services and all their hosting services. A ton of nodes and a ton of people running any type of web service are already on there. So that's something that they've already pushed. And a lot of people have been using it for a long period of time. That's one of the fights of, is it decentralized or not? If it's Amazon's hosting everything. But here, it's more of a hiring people positions to foray into other Web3 initiatives that we don't really have seen yet or have heard of. There was some number of internal hires. It looks like there is a lot of people that are, we've seen it with a lot of companies. They're high positions that they are definitely interested in this realm. I definitely think the goal is they already have a lot of items that get sent to your house, physical items. They do a lot of digital item sales with gaming and stuff like that. So it's natural for them to evolve into this space, selling collectibles and anything that they want to into the space and probably create some sort of loyalty system. I would say that would probably go really well for them because they have a lot of loyal customers, right?
Absolutely.
They could definitely make like a tiered system for loyalty that would probably go huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And now where this all comes from is, and it's the funny thing, we've talked about this a long time ago, and obviously from my recruiting background, I always tell people, if you want to know what the next, like the companies of the future and the big companies are going towards, always look at their job post. You're always going to find out if a company, what route they want to go, all these things. And the reason why all this commotion's been going down is that a few weeks back, if I'm not mistaken, Amazon came out and said that they're looking for on LinkedIn, they put this, they're seeking a senior GMI specialist Web3. So it's a Web3 go-to-market team that is responsible for growing adoption of Web3 workloads on AWS. So again, it just goes back to these companies, all of them, if it's Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, all these massive companies, they see the potential, but the way that they move has been just like they've moved for the last 100 years. They don't want the advantage to be just, we're just going to do it. They want to move in a way where they're hiring individuals, bringing them on board, having the product at hand. They know what they're doing, how to do it, the whole nine. And then they're like, here you go. But obviously with the internet and the detectives that are better detectives than the detectives that we have. They're all over the place on the internet. And when they see it, this is where the light gets shed and everyone starts talking about it and everything like that. Crier, would you apply to a position at Amazon for Web3?
I don't really like their business practices. They do like a lot of like weird things with their workers. I had, when I was practicing more, had a lot of patients that had interactions with Amazon in terms of like shipping and boxing at their warehouse and stuff like that. And they had a lot of stuff that was just very abusive, and I didn't like any of the stuff they were doing. So I probably would not, no, personally.
Maybe you can turn things around, but who knows? But what's going on also is that there are these rumors saying that not only is Amazon trying to get into it that way, taking this approach, but they're specifically aiming, obviously we're an NFT show, so we got to talk about this. They're aiming for an NFT marketplace. Yeah. So could this be something that could compete with an OpenSea, that can compete with a Blur?
There's nothing fancy about OpenSea. It's just they were the first movers. They got traction. If you were comparing the current user market base of what, like 100,000 people in NFTs, Amazon has probably billions of reach. You know what I mean? They are definitely the largest. So if you're going into they don't even have to market anything. It's just right on there. Everyone goes to Amazon constantly anyways. Like, it's not going to be just turn on the ad at the front page. Check out our marketplace. People don't even know what it has to be. You know what I'm saying? It could be like, just check out these digital collectibles that we're releasing. They're free. And it's just how Reddit did it, where it's like they already have such a giant user base. They can integrate these things with very little problem or very little knowledge base on the user side, right? They can have the custodied wallets for them. They can issue them. And then use something like Polygon to just how Reddit did, where they're able to control them. But if they want to leave, they're able to still, if the person actually wants to seek further or trade them on secondary markets. I'm sure if they have a built-in Amazon marketplace, it'd be that much easier because Reddit doesn't have a marketplace for it, stuff like this. Yeah, I think realistically, everyone in the future that sells stuff is probably going to have some sort of NFT marketplace. There's no way. NFTs is just a fancy word to say that it's just an item that has being able to track, right? Like, there's nothing special about it. So in the future, I think a lot of anything that sells merchandise or anything will have some sort of NFT marketplace realistically. And again, this is coming off the AWS partnership with Ava Labs too. They're definitely making moves in the direction, even with their web services stuff, they're trying to go more towards like blockchain based decentralization, stuff like that. Maybe distributing more of their actual like servers, stuff like that would be huge. So again, I think there's a lot of power in these moves. And again, like it's just another person coming into the space that's extremely powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you did mention it before. Amazon, it's not the first time we hear about Amazon doing this. They have those partnerships lined up. Their CEO last year, if I'm not mistaken, forget the name. It was like
Andy Jassy.
Yes. And came out and said that the future of NFTs it's just going to keep growing. Yeah. And this is something that you need to be optimistic about because of all the benefits of it. So it's just really cool to go ahead and see that. In 2021 also, they did have job postings just like these back then as well for individuals that know blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, being efficient in all these different sectors so that they can build something. Again, these massive companies, they do things behind the scenes that we do not know. We know that Disney, we know that Apple, we know that Microsoft, all these companies are all doing stuff. They just don't want to make it public because there's a lot of things that obviously need to, from the side of regulation, laws, the government, and on top of that, to see how things pan out. Because obviously we saw what happened with FTX. We saw with all these other massive companies just doing bad things, doing this, doing that. So they want to make sure that they do it in a way where it's as smooth sailing as possible and their name isn't just completely destroyed, because obviously a lot of people don't like crypto. They don't like NFTs. So if these massive companies just say, hey, we're going to do it, they got to make it at the right time, because of course the majority of their fan base, of the people that use their product and all of this, is always at the moment going to be the other side, which is we don't like NFTs. What the heck's crypto? I only bought Doge because Elon told me on SNL. So we want to make sure that we do it the right way.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of moving parts to all these things. You definitely don't want to burst out with something that's too early and lose your consumer base. We've seen a lot of it, but like I'm sure something like Coinbase, the NFT marketplace was rushed. No one used it. The crypto people weren't ready for it. There's a lot of moving parts. So something like exactly how Reddit did it, where it's like you literally have no idea that that's even there, has to be the way to go for this, especially for such a large marketplace.
Absolutely. Hey, Cry, do you know about another marketplace where you can buy like merchandise?
Merchandise.
Yeah, merchandise.
Oh,
you ever
maybe
buy what's it called again? I think it's called
NFTs.
NFTs. I just found out also that NFTs not only sells hoodies, shirts of all your favorite NFTs. All you have to do is log in, connect to their wall, to connect to their website, go to the favorite NFT and put it on the shirt. But Crier, NRN has its own partnered website with them. So that means if you use NRN10, not only on our merchandise that I'm about to talk to you about, but on any of other of your NFTs, but we got merchandise. We got shirts. We got hoodies. We got limited edition hoodies as well. So head over to NFTs.com. and you can see some really cool stuff, or just head over to the Discord over at NRN, and we got some stuff, some links for you to check it out. But we are officially on the merch game. All right, just wanted to mention that. Wanted to mention that before we get into the next topic. So Crier, checks over stripes. I need a rundown of what the hell I missed and what's going on, because these checks are running. They're ripping face. So
we've been riding. Yeah, so we've been talking about it for a couple of times. They minted about 30 something days ago, 32 days ago, something like that. It all started as just one of the first open editions that was through the Manifold process, making it easy for artists to showcase their stuff. Actually, they use Zora, but similar approach. It's the same idea where you're able to make contracts quickly with a couple of these other new platforms. But yeah, so they are hugely coming out of the gate, running there. Jack Butcher is already like a pretty popular contemporary digital artist. He's working on a couple of things. He's very big on the showing just a picture to really break something down. He has like a couple of series of things that show like JPEG versus NFT, and it's just like the same picture with a little check on it, showing that it's verified with provenance, stuff like that. There's a lot of that type of stuff. He has a one-on-one collection of all these artwork like that. He's had some big sales previously, like 74 ETH. I think one that was like 80 ETH, something like that. Pretty high up there. So again, he's pretty well respected in the community. And the checks were started as a meme on the whole Elon Musk Twitter verification, getting your blue check, paying $8. So anyone that wanted, you could pay $8 and you would get a check. You could get up to 40 in the mint. So, per $8 per. And it was just like just showcasing, is it truly verified if you're paying $8, or how that whole thing works. So he ended up making it into a game theory with burn mechanisms that ended up being, you start with your check, you can go, there's 80 checks on a sheet of one of the NFTs, and each time that you're able to burn them to get a reduced amount of checks. So there'll be 80 to 40, then there are 40, 20, 10, 5, 4, 1. And then there's a final check that is the black check. And that one is if you burn 4,096 check marks, which currently at these valuations is roughly like $9 million worth of checks at the 1.8 price, you can create a black check. Which I think is super interesting. Introduces the concept of community, realistically, because now we've seen a lot of people coming forward saying they want to start a black checks DAO.
I can see
use one of your checks to contribute to the DAO. You get a partial ownership of the check, the black check mark, which I think is super interesting. There's a lot of cool mechanisms in this whole ecosystem. We've seen a ton of really famous artists all coming in and like
derivatives.
There's so many derivatives. Like every day there's probably 15 to 20 derivatives that pop up. And again, it just shows you that it's a unique idea. It's not about just, it's check marks on a piece of paper or digital item or whatever. It's really about what the concept of all these burn mechanisms will have. And even if you just burn one, you still get a one-of-one generative on-chain piece of art that will be stored on-chain. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to do with the actual mechanisms behind them, like when you're combining them. So if you're familiar with like biology and stuff like that, you have the Mendel charts and you're combining traits to get blue checks versus you don't want all blue 40 checks or whatever. You have to combine two that have mostly blue checks. So you're like breeding them down into what color you want.
So let me ask you, all these checks that everyone has, they're not the same?
They're all the same. And then when he turns on the new system, you're going to be able to combine them to make different color schemes and patterns based on the genealogy of your check.
Okay, now let me ask you, at the moment, has there been any burn mechanism already?
There has not been any burn mechanism. He has, if you're really interested in stuff, you should definitely check out his Twitter. He literally has like probably close to 500 tweet thread of what he's been doing with checks. He posts on the same thread every single day about what he's done. And again, it shows you that whole community thing of building in the open. I read it every day because I think it's super interesting to see what he's created and what iterations of ideas that he goes for and scratches something off, changes it. It's all pretty out in the open. So I think it's just super interesting to me. I'm all about the community stuff. I think that's the most important and most valuable thing. And we've seen that pop up with all of these little things. We've seen the decree one, the proceed with caution, a similar aspect there. You get people who are trying to collect these one of ones that are 20 ETH and 15 ETH. You can't afford those things. And people want to be able to do these things. So if you're rewarding those people who wanted to get in on your piece, find you a interesting artist, wanted to collect them, you still get a bunch of money because you're charging $8. He charged $8 for 16,000 mints. So he definitely got a good amount of money from it. We saw the Vincent Van Gogh one today got
a few of those
200,000 mints.
Yeah, it was 200,000 plus. Yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So he literally got $1.6 million worth of funds in.
How many did you mint? How many did you mint?
100.
Over here, I'm like, I thought I'm going to do 7 just in case. And this man goes, 193 more than me. Good heavens. He's like, I'm not missing generational wealth this time.
I just think it's
change the metadata, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I thought it was dumb until he changed the metadata to say there might be some connection. Click. There might be some sort of, who knows what they do. There are two people who are really deeply ingrained in the NFT space. I think obviously the value of the other checks is much higher because it was like the first one. Everyone else is like imitation, whatever.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a cool concept. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of mechanism still. And again, it's just of all these things. It's more about I don't really give a shit about the money of these things. I think it's really interesting to how, like I was asking people, are you going to be part of one of these these check DAOs? And I'm very interested in these. I think they're going to be really cool. I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff to do with them. Either vote on where we're displaying this piece of art, or how we're going to split ownership. What we can do as we become a community of people who want to invest in high-end artwork. The person that's leading the one that I'm interested in is the Schmo Crypto, is like the highest holder of checks. He has 507 checks personally. So he literally bought, I think, pretty much between that and the Decree one, he bought 100 ETH worth of it while they were like crazy low. Like he's literally up almost, I think, 1,500 since his purchases or some crazy stuff like that. So,
conviction.
Yeah, super high conviction rate. And he was already something who was really big into just collecting artwork. He already has like on Cyber with a museum. It's just like a ton of generative art, and he has conviction for the space. And when you talk to people like that, I don't think he gives a shit about the money. Like, I think it's all about the artwork and like the community and stuff like that.
The journey,
like, again,
the process. Yeah,
the process of all this stuff. And that's why he wants to create something like this DAO. And I think I'm very excited about. I haven't been excited. And again, like all these open editions is back to what I liked about NFTs. I'm here for cool artwork, cool discussions. I think it's something where I've been most of the time in the past, since December of last year, it's just been all down. Everything's like some sort of, anything new has really been a cash grab, or there's nothing like super solid coming out of anything. And the reason I got an NFT to begin with was because I liked looking at cool pictures that people were happy. I don't want to listen to, we've been through like 5 months of like capitulate and yelling at each other and dumb shit. And this is so refreshing to me.
No, I love it. I love it. And staying on the positive side, only if you just stayed positive on the doodle side. That's for another episode, Crier. Since
Hey, they're not for the open stuff. They're for the closed
jabs. Speaking of open and closed systems, this leads me into something I gotta ask you. So you brought up a little thing a few minutes before the podcast, and I was like, hey, listen, we definitely got to talk about this because I didn't know you were gonna do a great transition like you just did right there. I love it right now. So let's talk about this, Crier. You and I, we're not the biggest fan of Blur. There's some things that we like about Blur, but of course, on the side of the airdrop and the way they're maneuvering around things and who's a part of Blur and all this stuff, shady, weird, wonky. But one of the really weird things that's been going on the last few months has been that you're with OpenSea is that when there is some projects that can only be sold on OpenSea or specific marketplaces, and other marketplaces, those NFTs are not being able to be sold. Now, 100%. You told me that something new came up, and it's Blur figured a way around that and found itself a loophole. So what went down there?
Yeah, absolutely. November 8th, OpenSea initiated their new royalty enforcement program. I was happy with it, to be honest. I don't mind paying royalties. I don't think it's, I think it's why NFTs have a super high value in general, especially for artists. I think less on the PFP and like the roadmap side of those things. Just like I see it more on just like traditional artwork. I think royalties are a massive innovation for artists. So what happened was Blur came in and pretty much turned off royalties. The meta was now no one pays royalties anymore. Blur is the top performing marketplace, and OpenSea had to combat that with their choice to create their seaport being only able to be utilized going forward. So you had to choose this as a creator. You could either choose OpenSea, use their thing, enforce the royalties, but you weren't able to do that on any other non-enforcing marketplace. Okay. So X2Y2 was out, Blur was out, Looks, I think, is not out because I think they do enforce royalties.
Yeah,
I think Looks still enforces royalties.
Yeah, they still enforce it.
Or no, you can choose. The creator has to put it in on same thing.
Yeah, as exactly. Same thing as any other. The actual
X2Y2 and the ones in Blur were the ones that were changing it to where they're.
That was the Wild Wild West.
Yeah. A few months ago that was enforced, and then Blur's been down ever since then because we've seen just with all these recent open edition metas, everything was only tradable on OpenSea practically because all these artists were trying to enforce all the royalties. So I actually lost 15 checks that way, which piece 30
talk about those. Oh no, we don't talk about it. I completely forgot about that. Good Lord.
So thank you, OpenSea, for ruining that. But anyways, they pretty much they came back to OpenSea saying, we're going to enforce royalties on any project that chooses to enforce royalties so that we can get off your blacklist so that we can start picking up and aggregating all of your new purchases again. OpenSea came back and said, no, you have to enforce it for every collection for it to be off the blacklist for using Seaport because OpenSea actually just uses Seaport. They didn't make their own contracts. Looks Rare did, or X2Y2 made their own contracts. Blur is just taking OpenSea stuff. So they're just using their smart contract to Seaport. Again, now they have found a way to route all of their traffic 2 ways. So if it is a new collection that is enforced royalties, you as a user don't know it's happening, but they force it to go through Seaport and it forces you to pay royalties. You can't do anything about it. And then now they are not able to blacklist them because they are actually using Seaport's own. Whereas the other old way is with all Blur contracts, and you're not able to like brute force no royalties through the old contract because they've blacklisted them, right? So now OpenSea can't stop Blur from doing it on their contracts because it would hurt them, right? There's no way to stop them from doing it. What's pretty much going to happen now is anytime that you go and trade something, you just won't even know on there, but Blur will enforce you to pay. So if you're trying to sell a check, you're going to force you to pay the 2.5. Blur still takes fees. I think it's 0.5 is the lowest you can do, 5 times less than OpenSea's 2.5.
Okay.
Or the 3.5 on the Gaia marketplace for the new Doodle one. If you want to get real
here we go.
Yeah.
He couldn't hold back.
Couldn't hold back. That one really got me. The processing fee for an extra percent just really fired me up. But they're getting to where they can't stop them from doing it. If you want to trade things on Blur, that just, like I said, that just enforces that thing. And I think it's a pretty cool idea. I like that OpenSea was trying to enforce royalties. I think that's like honorable, but the way they did it was by making you use OpenSea, which is not honorable, not open systems, not anything. Yep. They have their competitive edge there, but now they've lost it again. We'll see how it goes. I think Blur will pick back up because of this. Personally, I have been using Blur a lot. I think Blur has done really well on the selling and buying aspect. There's actually a new one called magically.gg that I love. It's made from the NFT Llamaverse or whatever, and Alpha Sharks, which is like a NFT, kind of like Icy Tools or like a tooling system. They're combined. So there is a pro version of it if you own Alpha Sharks for the Magically marketplace. But if you don't, you still get like incredible analytics. It's probably one of the best analytics I've seen out of any of these marketplaces. You could even turn it into like trading view charts and stuff like that for collections. So really big fan of that one. But we'll see how that one goes. They're doing the similar thing, airdrop. I would definitely check those out. You can get boxes similar to how they did with Blur. I don't know if I do like them a lot just for the fact that they have really good analytics, because Blur is just like buy, sell only, no analytics like at all. It's terrible. So you still have to use 5 websites, whereas this is like
everything's in one
all
place.
Integrated. Yeah, 100%.
No, that makes sense. But yeah, no, super excited things to come. Again, when we look at all these marketplaces and what they're doing, those moves that they're trying to make, the advantages, everything like that, this is when we talk about literally brick by brick. And we're all here, the people listening, you guys listening, us doing this podcast, everyone on Twitter, we're cemented in what's Web3. All these things we're learning together, and we're figuring out how it's going to be successful in the future and how it's going to be done. So again, it's super awesome to be a part of the process and the journey, the ride of all these companies, as well as the ship posters and the builders and the everyone. So it's just really cool to see it, and hopefully the good things stick and not the bad things, like the 3.5 on Doodles. But yeah, other than that, let's nerd out at the end of this episode, like we always do, because you finally did your homework. You're ready for episode 4. By the way, when you guys listen to this, episode 4 of The Last of Us is out. Unfortunately, on our side, we can't talk about it. It's beforehand, like 40 minutes before. But how we can talk about it since it's been a week. How did you like that 3rd episode?
I loved it.
Phenomenal.
It's such a good, again, it's not even, it's a horror thing. Everyone thinks zombies. They think instantly like horror. And I just, that's why The Last of Us game was so interesting too, because it had a lot of cool, thought out, like a different system for zombies, right? With the whole like fungus and all that stuff. But now they're just like awesome and really in-depth character development. We got like an 30-minute episode about one character that's starting in this thing. So I think it's just such a cool background to a lot of the just like the universe that they're building and how they've created these things. I think it was done extremely well. Acting was phenomenal again. I can't remember his name right now, but it's Ron Swanson. He's just Ron Swanson. I don't know his name, but yeah, he did a fantastic job. Really, you don't ever see him in that serious role that much. And, he did phenomenal.
No, they absolutely crushed it. I love what you just said, where they're building the ecosystem. They're building the universe of The Last of Us, just like in the video game. And what I really enjoy of this all, and of course, I will say I have not played the game. I've only watched some walkthroughs until like right after the outbreak. Joel and what's her name? Her name is Ellie.
Yeah, Ellie.
When they first meet up. So again, typically like where we are right now, but it's really cool just listening at the end of the episode when they explain it, how they're just grabbing little things and sometimes even big things and just tweaking it. So the individuals that have loved the video game so much, they're still being surprised every single 100%. Episode because they're adding something new. And this is the first time where everyone on Twitter, everyone on social media is happy about the things that they change. Because typically when massive companies come in Hollywood, they come in and change just a little bit of a video game or a book or whatever, they're like, no, it's not good. They did it bad. They did it wrong. Everyone is just so happy about the tweaks and how they're adding things and everything like that. And what I love about this episode,
why they actually consulted highly in depth with the creators of the game. There's a lot of thought,
and they're using
them to their
and they're
benefit.
fans.
Again.
And they're massive fans of the video game as well. Sure. That's one thing. Let me end my thought on this side. But what I loved about this episode was this whole episode. I talked to my girlfriend about it, Carolina, and she said it felt like a filler. But I'm like, no, because at the end of it, they just brought it all back together where Joel, Ellie get to the place, the whole 9 yards, they find the note, they do this, they do that. And all that hour and 30, 20 minutes allowed you to then understand the last 10 minutes, which led on from the story of the last few episodes.
And the whole episode was like, what, like
it, bro.
20 years long? Like the actual time frame of this stuff. So you get to see the evolution of pure chaos. Then there's a little bit of structure and the governments behind these things in the world. And it was a really well thought out episode for the world building aspect,
to understand what's been going on.
Exactly. Yeah. And it gives you a fresh point of view also. Like it wasn't just you see it from their eyes, you see it from Ellie's eyes, but you see it from a new character's perspective. Brand new
characters, time frame.
You know, his background is like the ultimate survival bunker man. I think that was really cool.
So funny.
Yeah, it was really good.
Like what you'd always wonder, like obviously we know in the world there's people that are.
You got your bunker guy. You got one of your friends is like the bunker guy.
You're set. Like you got to go.
You're like
there,
golden.
Right? Yeah, you're golden. But again, super awesome, very interesting. And I did like what you just said as well, Crier, on the side of consulting fans, consulting the video game side of it, all 9. One of the things I'm super excited about, and they just announced with the brand new posters, is on the side of One Piece. Netflix got the rights to actually do a live action, and they've consulted with individuals that are true fans, the writer, the whole 9. I'm still a little skeptical, but we'll see how it goes. And the last thing, because we got to wrap this episode up, on the side of Bad Batch, I know not that many people are watching and whatnot. I've been telling people, listen, my boy's coming back. The Wookiee with the lightsaber, and guess what, Crier? We got him back. He's a dog. You have to watch this episode. The lightsaber's there. My happy ass, one of these days on this wall.
You've been posting it in the Discord all day.
Oh, yeah. I've been posting about it on the Discord. One of these days on this wall, you will see. His name is Gunji, is the Wookiee. And you will see. I will have his lightsaber one day. The wooden green lightsaber. It's going to look phenomenal. But yeah, man, that pretty much wraps it up for everyone listening. Just head over to HBO Max, man. Like, just watch this show, number 1. Number 2, we're still building every single day, Crier. And while we're building, I'm still trying to figure out a way to close this show, and I still don't know how to do it. So we'll catch you guys next episode to find out if I could close this damn show. Peace.
Odds are very...
very unlikely. Very unlikely. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Peace.